Welcome to Joyfully Unstoppable, the podcast for women who are ready to succeed without the stress. Whether you're leading a team, a classroom, a boardroom, or your own big, beautiful life, I am so glad you found us. I'm your host, Becky Hamm, leadership coach, speaker, and founder of Women Lead Well. Each week, we'll explore what it means to lead joyfully, sustainably, and authentically, even in a world that tells you to hustle harder and prove your worth. You carry a lot. Let's help it feel lighter. Okay, my friends, Happy New Year. I hope your 2026 is off to a great start. Kids are back at school today. We had a fantastic holiday season. Our biggest accomplishment might be that nobody got sick over the holidays. And so we made it through an early morning wake up to get the kids to school. They are at school, fingers crossed, that they're going to stay at school. And we're ready to hit the ground running on 2026. I hope the same is true for you. So today we are going to take that new year energy and we're going to start a conversation. There's going to be today and then next week. We're going to look at how do you take all that energy of the new year and make it sustainable year long. Because you guys know, I've talked about it before, people fail to achieve their goals 92% of the time. We only actually achieve the goals we set 8% of the time. It is insane. And with everyone with their New Year's resolutions and first year of the new year, I want to set y'all up for success. And so today we're looking at this pattern, this habit that happens again to 92% of us. And that is we set these goals or New Year's resolutions and they feel really good now. We set them for a reason and then we lose momentum by February. You get about 6 weeks of that new goal, new year push, and then we fade away by February. And so I'm going to keep this practical and we're going to keep it brain-based. You know, I love the brain science. So we're going to talk about how motivation actually runs in the brain. We're going to talk about what you need to follow through at a biological level, like what your brain needs in order to stay committed to implement your goals. And we're going to talk about why even disciplined people can have their goals kind of drift off when life keeps going. So here's a frame for you really quick. I'm going to say you might hear my dogs in the background. They're like wandering. Once I start talking, they get antsy. They've been asleep for an hour now, but now they hear my voice and so they're getting all antsy. So apologies if you hear them in the background. But here's the frame for today. Goals tend to rely on a very specific kind of energy. And that energy comes from these 3 different drives. There's this novelty drive. So things are new. That drives energy. There's an identity drive, that our goals that are tied to our identity or how we see ourselves, not how we want to see ourselves, but how we actually see ourselves. So if we see ourselves as a flake, or if we see ourselves as someone who doesn't follow through, we might not want to see ourselves that way, but that's the true identity of how we do see ourselves. And that will impact our goals and implementation. And then finally, there's this outcome drive of we are pushing toward a particular goal or particular outcome. And our brain wants that to be immediate. So if we've got bigger goals that are going to take longer to achieve, that affects the energy that we need in order to actually accomplish the goal. Now, all 3 of those, the novelty drive, the identity drive, the outcome drive, those can all feel really powerful in the beginning, in the first 6 weeks. The brain loves a clear target. The brain loves a clean story, like clearly identified next steps. And so it can get going with intention, right? There can be a lot of energy in the early days of your goals, a lot of energy in the early days of the year. Sustaining your goal calls for a different system. Sustaining your goal calls for repeatable actions, for kind of mentally automated, repetitive actions. When the goal feels familiar, When feedback comes slowly, when you're in that messy middle, right? When your calendar looks like your calendar always does, that's where your brain starts to look for efficiencies. And so automating or taking out the energy required to do the thing to achieve the goal, that's what becomes critical. And so in this episode, we're going to talk about the different reasons that goals commonly lose their traction by February, why it is that we just fade away, why it is that 92% of people fail to achieve their goals. Each reason has a brain mechanism underneath it. And once you can name that mechanism, you can design around it. And so that's what we're going to do next week. I said these were 2 episodes that are going to go together. And so next week, we're going to talk about what you can do to overcome this kind of mental block to goal implementation and goal achievement. And so I'm excited for that one. But let's start here. Let's start with why January often feels so good. Like why we start our goals with so much energy. In the early weeks of a new goal, your brain is like running off of the anticipation of goal achievement. It's like that new car smell, but in your brain. Anticipation has a chemical signature, and that signature is dopamine, which we all know by now. Dopamine tracks expected reward and progress signals. And so to put that in just basic language, your brain lights up when it can imagine a payoff and when it senses movement toward that payoff. And so January is full of easy cues of anticipated payoff. You set the goal, you do the planning for the goal, like all of that, right? And it makes your brain really happy. So, novelty. You've got a new plan. You've built your new system or your timeline or your whatever. You've got a new notebook. You've got a new routine. Novelty grabs our attention really quickly, and that attention creates energy, and that energy motivates action at the start. Now, there's also clarity. There's a lot of clarity early in your goal, right? The first step feels pretty obvious. You can see the first moves, and so starting, it feels clean. It feels like, here we go. We've already made progress. We've taken the first step. It is awesome. The brain is not negotiating what to do or when to do it or how to. The brain is just doing. And so there's less internal friction. Also, early in your goals, you probably are getting some quick feedback because your early actions often produce some visible results. So you do that first week of consistent workouts and you've got that soreness, and that soreness tells you it's working. Or you're chugging your water because that's what you're doing. And now you going to the bathroom every hour. And that feels like, okay, yes, it is doing what it's supposed to do and I'm making progress. All of that, those progress signals to the brain, that tells your brain to stay engaged. That keeps focus and energy on the goal and the implementation. Fourth, I talked about identity. You've got this identity alignment early in goals. Many goals are connected to a story that you respect about yourself. Maybe it's that you're disciplined, that you're committed, that you're serious, that you're growth-oriented. That story can carry you for a while because you care about living in alignment with it, right? Now, I had mentioned before, there's your true identity and there's the identity that you want for yourself. And so those two, the January energy or that start of a new goal energy is often aligned with the identity you want for yourself, more so than the identity you actually have for yourself. So it'll carry you for a little while, but then those two are going to come into conflict. So that momentum that we're experiencing now with all the new goals and resolutions that you have set for yourself for 2026, it makes sense because there are a lot of different layers in your brain that are being cued to take the actions that you're taking. And then let's fast forward a few weeks and the cues are going to change. I'm so sorry, but they do. So novelty fades. Steps start to feel repetitive. The feedback doesn't come as often. Your calendar fills up. Your brain stops receiving those easy progress signals, right? Those early wins. And so it starts asking a different question. What does this cost? What does it cost to take the actions I need to implement the goal? And that question leads us to our next mechanism. And that is that your brain's priority is energy management. We've talked about this before. There's a whole episode on the body budget. I'll link it below for you. Your brain runs this huge operation to keep your body alive, and it only has so much energy to do it. And so it manages attention, emotion, decision-making, memory, threat detection all day long. It also manages your body. It manages the heart pumping, the breaths coming in and out, right? All your eyes focusing, all of the nervous system activity, the hormones, the metabolic demands, all of that is management that is run through the brain in combination with the nervous system. So when you set a goal, you're adding additional demands on the brain. Even a goal you genuinely want adds cognitive load. It requires planning, remembering, choosing, inhibiting, like not doing, right? Recovering, protecting time. Early in a goal, the brain tolerates that load more easily because it's got the novelty, the progress cues that are helping to fund the effort. You're getting those dopamine hits. But over time, your brain is just going to shift into efficiency mode. It just does. That's just the life of the brain. And so efficiency mode asks for predictability, for automation, for fewer decisions, not more. For the first several months, most of our goals stay in decision mode because we haven't automated them yet. And so decision mode would look like, when am I going to do this today? Where will it fit? What am I going to skip? What counts as success? How will I know when I've done what I need to? What will I do if the day goes off the rails? And those questions are normal, right? I mean, come on, ladies. This is just our life, right? This is the mental load of life, particularly for successful women. Those questions demand executive function. It's just a part of the brain, right? That metacognition. Executive function sits heavily on those prefrontal networks that fatigue with use. It's why it's harder to make a decision later in the day than earlier in the day. As leaders, we use those networks constantly. Our days are already filled with prioritizing, with switching contexts, often very rapidly, managing ambiguity, making calls, carrying social complexity. And so by February, the goal can feel pretty expensive because it's doing all of your regular work plus trying to manage this new stuff that you want to do. So I'm going to say it doesn't feel expensive. It's not emotionally taxing. It's not emotionally hard. It's neurologically hard. And it's expensive because it's consuming those brain resources, those neurological synapses, that prefrontal cortex, that executive function that you already have allocated to the real work that you are already doing. And so I'm going to pause here and say, and the more goals you have set, the greater a demand you're putting on that part of your brain, which is why I always recommend, there's a quick commercial in the middle of the podcast. So you all know I've developed the Success Blueprint. It is my goal setting and goal implementation mini course, $26. It's still available. The link is down in the show notes if you'd like to take a look. But it is my best effort to help women set goals that are really meaningful for them and then actually get those goals achieved so that you're in that 8% that actually achieve your goals. And I will tell you inside the Success Blueprint, and I'll tell you right now on the podcast, don't set 10 goals. I'm going to tell you don't set 5 goals. I'm going to tell you 3 is your sweet spot. If you want to do one at a time, that's awesome too. I just don't know a lot of women who achieve one goal at a time. Most of us have multiple things going. But the fewer goals, the better. For this exact reason, your brain is going to max out. And once it maxes out, it starts to economize. It starts protecting capacity. It starts trimming optional load. And many of our goals get classified as optional because, one, they don't have the immediate response. If you want to lose 10 pounds, if you want to get that promotion, if you want to launch your company, whatever those big juicy goals are that you have that I freaking love for you, you're probably not going to do them in a month. You're probably looking at 6-month, 12-month goals, right? And so your brain is going to say, ooh, this is hard. It takes a long time. I'm going to economize for the stuff that I already know how to do. It's going to default to the familiar. And you are not even going to know that it's happening. This happens automatically without your intent, without your conscious reflection. It's just an energy strategy of the brain. And you will see this in all kinds of common behaviors. You postpone the workout because a late meeting jumped up and that created a time squeeze. You skip a writing session, you're trying to write a book or an article or whatever, because you need your mind clear for this difficult conversation that you know is coming up. You avoid the budget review because you've already had to deal with too much friction this week and you can't even. Your brain is doing the trade-off. It chooses what protects performance in the domains, in the areas that feel most significant to your brain today. Not to you, not the personality of you, but to the I've got to keep the whole body alive part of you. And this is why 92% of people don't achieve their goals. And this is why that's often not intentional, right? It doesn't look like, oh, I'm not going to pursue this goal anymore, like I give it up. It happens through these repeated deferrals of putting off the workout, of not doing the things that you need to do in order to achieve the goal. And you just build your momentum in a different direction. All right, and there's one more thing that I want to talk about today. And then again, next week, we're going to talk about what you can do about this. And that is our addiction to outcomes. I don't know how else to say it. Most of our goals are written as outcomes. And I talk about this too. Look, in the Success Blueprint, I talk about like what is the outcome you're driving toward. That isn't your goal, but that is a part of goal setting. It just is. You want to hit a number, you want to earn the credential, you want to lose X number of pounds, you want to complete the project, you want to build the habit, you want to publish the thing, like whatever. Outcomes are useful because they give us direction, right? That's what we're driving toward, the outcome. At the same time, our brains are wired for patterns. And this is just evolutionary. It's how it keeps us alive. Patterns form through consistent repetition. That's how we build our habits. That's how automaticity, that's how like the muscle memory gets built. And that is how our actions become more efficient over time. That's how we reduce the mental load. When goals stay outcome focused, the daily experience can feel disconnected. Why? Because today you're going to do one small little thing and that outcome stays far away. The brain gets a weak progress cue, and that weak cue reduces engagement. And that's how you start that slide. Many goals also lead on these distant milestones as the marker of success when we know that our brain responds better to the immediate, to the nearer markers that show movement today. So when your only feedback comes weeks away, that engagement drops, even if you're still committed to the goal. So this is why I've talked multiple times on different episodes about I list the 3 things that I'm grateful for every day. The reticular activating system, your brain is going to look for the things that you tell it to look for. That's what I'm talking about here. When success is so distant as to feel theoretical, well, your brain is going to discount that, and it's going to focus on the stuff that feels immediate, that you're giving attention to, and that is feeding it, giving it the cues today. And so as you're thinking about goal setting, when you're thinking, not goal setting, but you're thinking about goal implementation, you want to think about the patterns and the small wins that you can log and explicitly tell your brain, this was a win today. As small as it might be, you want the consistent pattern of logging a win as you implement your goal. Because, as we've talked about many times, your brain is trying to economize energy use. It does that by simplifying. And it is going to simplify the new stuff first, simply because the neural pathways aren't written as deeply. If you're trying to change your behavior, it's going to default to what is known, because what is known is just easier for it to do, even if it doesn't bring you the satisfaction of the life that you want. Again, there's nothing conscious in what your brain is doing. It's all happening at a biological level, trying to protect energy and resources. So That pattern that you build or don't build is going to show up in February. And again, this is what we're going to talk about next week in our episode. So today, we've talked about why goal setting, the beginning stages of goal implementation in January are so easy. You've got novelty, you've got clarity, you've got feedback. It's tied to your identity, an idealized identity, but identity nonetheless. February brain is focused on efficiency, conserving energy for the long haul. You've got decision fatigue. You've got your social and cognitive loads that compete with one another. Your willpower reaches its limit. Outcome-focused goals lack the patterns, the systems that your brain uses to automate follow-through. Now, if any of this is resonating with you, good. It means that you can approach your goals with the same strategic intelligence that you bring to every other part of your life, right? This is how you get to success. And so, join me next week when I'm going to give you 2 very clear actions that you can take to reduce friction and build follow-through. You want to automate follow-through in a way that supports your brain over time. The steps are practical, they are specific, they are designed for women with full lives. I'm excited for it. Now, if this episode spoke to you, I would love for you to share it with a woman who's running on empty. We need more women leading from alignment, not adrenaline. And please, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps a little podcast like mine. And if you could leave a review, I would deeply appreciate that. Building those reviews on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, it really does help get this podcast in the ears of other women whom it could benefit. And don't forget, you can always grab one of our free resources, like the thought-catching journal prompts, year in review, mental load reset. All of that is available on the Women Lead Well website, and I'll link them in the show notes below. And again, if you want some focused support in your goal setting and goal implementation journey, you can check out the Success Blueprint. Remember, joyful, sustainable, and authentic leadership is possible, and you deserve to enjoy every minute of it. Until next time, I'm Becky Hamm, and this is Joyfully Unstoppable.